recording after we share, and then I always forget. So thank y'all for keeping
Maybe
me
you
straight.
can start with what's south, what's north, what's, can you do that again so it's online?
Yes.
So I can
So the
see it
four
again?
cardinal
Thank you.
points. Yeah, the four cardinal points of the medicine wheel are, east, west, north, and south. They have different colors. If you're in a ceremony, different tribes have different colors to represent those four directions. And in the north, it would be purity. In the south, it would be fertility. In the west, it would be death and the setting sun. In the east, it would be birth and the rising sun. So that changes for different tribes, but in general, that is the view on the medicine wheel. And it also represents the four primary races of mankind: Black people, white people, Asians, and I'm forgetting one, help me out. Red people, red people. And so that's an important thing for Native people. So it had something to do with why they welcomed us when we came here. Like they were like, oh, you're the brother that's come. And as most of you probably know, there are several mythologies that Native people have that include us. The one that's the most famous is the Hopi prophecy that the white brother will come and bring them the other half of their story. They believe that to be the Tibetan people. And when the Dalai Lama came to visit the Hopis and do ceremony with them, they believed that those ceremonies took, and that it documented that he was in fact the person they had been waiting for. And there's lots of interesting stories around that. But they have a beautiful rock there and one of the most sacred spaces on the reservation. And that rock shows two lines diverting from each other. And they believe that our culture had a choice to go one way or the other. We all know which way we went. And they predicted that if we went the path of materialism, that we would be rained down upon by the people of the red hats, which we later realized were the Chinese, who now have many of our jobs and to whom we are in big debt, and who have killed lots of Tibetan people and have put pollution in the rivers very intentionally and have desecrated the most sacred lands of the Tibetan people very intentionally. So I think, as we all know, Native people carry a lineage that is inherent to the United States and I think critical to the balance that we are missing in the United States. And it's why I spent so many years documenting, photographing, and interviewing Native people, and that has gone on to tour to several museums around the Southeast. I did that specifically so that we could incorporate some of their tradition and wisdom into our culture, which we haven't really managed to do. So, so I'm going to read from this beautiful book, which I cannot recommend highly enough. It just came out this year. It's the first Norton anthology of Native American poetry, and it's edited by Joy Harja, who is a Muskogee Creek poet and musician, and she is the first Native American to be given the position of the Poet Laureate of the United States, which is a huge honor.
I saw her on the news.
You did, yeah.
Recently, yeah. Well, when she got that award, that honor.
She was here in Asheville 2 years ago at the Poetry Festival. She was so interesting to meet. So we're going to start in the South, and this is a Muskogee poet. Her name's Louise Little Coon Oliver, and his name is Lewis Little Coon Oliver, sorry, and he is a man. And the Muskogee now live in Oklahoma, where they were moved during the Trail of Tears.
Right, it's right outside of Oklahoma City.
Yes, yes, it
very
is.
close to the where Baba had his accident.
Yes, right. We're going to talk about that. So this is called Mind Over Matter. My old grandmother stuck an axe into a stump and diverted a tornado. In minutes, we would have been destroyed. It struck the little town of Porter, chipping up the railroad tracks, twisted the rails and stood them up. There was power in that twister. There was power in my grandmother. Those who doubt, let them. And I want to tell you a story about that. And I don't know if you all know Joey Korn, but he's from Augusta, Georgia, and travels around the world teaching dowsing. And he was my best friend when I lived in Augusta. He taught me how to take I know this sounds crazy, but this is a true story. He taught me, and he does it all the time. He taught me how to take a metal stake and put it in the ground and to divert water that way using dowsing. And that is exactly what Native people did in this poem. They diverted the tornado by putting this axe in the stump. And how that works, I cannot tell you. I just know that he has actually gone to people's houses whose wells went dry, and that's how he got the well to come back online. Is he used a metal stake in the ground until he found the line of the water and moved it. When I was with a Creek elder years ago, we were out in Alabama, and there was a huge tornado coming through, and I saw him. I kind of followed him. He went outside. I could tell he was getting ready to do something, so I followed him, and I stood there with him while I prayed. And he basically talked to the tornado, and he talked like this: "I know that you're coming through, and we thank you for the water that you're bringing, but there are many people here with children, and we ask that you just go around a little bit, go out into the ocean just a little bit and bypass this area. And we are grateful for you doing that." And he talked to it exactly like it was a person. It was such a beautiful experience to witness him do that. In this very gentle kind of, conversational way that he spoke to the storm. So this lovely next 2 poems is from a Chickasaw woman who is also from the Mississippi area, now also in Oklahoma. And her name is Linda Hogan. She's super well known. There's a few poets in here that are just extremely well known, but most Native American poets are not so well known. This woman has authored several collections of poetry. She's won the Guggenheim, National Endowment for the Arts, American Book Award, big deal poet, big deal writer. And this poem is called Landing. It is the day of leaving, when spiderlings in order of magnitude hatch, and from inward silk unfurl towards a new god caught by the wind. I walk by the silk curtain of strands that come from a body. It is a shining world. I want to unravel something from the belly of myself. It would not be about the spider who crossed water and brought fire back to my people. She's referring to one of their mythologies. Or even the length and brightness of our river, shining like silk in the light of sun and moonlight. But about the cave up there in the high mountains with animals made of willow twigs. They were there before us, tied with the string of our grasses, as if they were saying, "We are one of you, the future." And then those first ones come down on ropes of animal hair. So here she's talking about the elders taking willow trees, which were used for dowsing because they were thought to be able to find water. In Europe, that's what people used to douse with. And it was thought that willows were, I don't want to say magical, but they were more connected to energy than other types of trees. And these were effigies that they found that were also part of their mythology that predicted their lineage and their path. They have always been the far travelers coming down from above. That's why our fields are full of hope. And what is a story but this? Silk, the ancestors landing and traveling, who knows where, but sometimes they take your arm and, caught on a soft wind, you follow. This one's called The History of Fire. My mother is a fire beneath stone. My father, lava. My grandmother is a match, my sister straw. Grandfather is kindling like trees of the world. My brothers are gunpowder. And I am smoke with gray hair, ash with black fingers and palms. I am wind for the fire. My dear one is a jar of burned bones I have saved. This is where our living goes, and still we breathe. And even the dry grass with sun and lightning above it has no choice but to grow and then lie down with no other end in sight. Air is between these worlds, fanning the flames of us all.
Mhm.
This lovely poem is called Song of the Choctaw Girl. It was written by a Choctaw writer from the 1800s. These first two poets we read are still living. This one is from the 1800s. I'm looking on the mountain. I'm gazing over the plain. I love the friends around me, but wish for home again. So this is really about someone who's been put into a boarding school, Native American boarding school, which our government, took people from their homes at gunpoint and put them in boarding schools. And so this is what this poem's about. I'm looking on the mountain, I'm gazing over the plain. I love the friends around me and wish for home again. I hear their tones of kindness, they soothe my every pain. I know they love me truly, I wish for home again. My mother's grave is yonder, and there it must remain. My father's care is tender, how I wish for home again. My sisters and my brothers, alas, it may be vain, this longing for beloved ones to wish for home again. Take me to my nation and let me there remain. This other world is strange and strange. I wish for home again. Give me the western forest, the mountains, stream, and plain, the shaded lawns of childhood. Give me home again. The free breeze of the prairie, the wild birds' joyous strain, the tree my father planted. Take me home again. The sunshine and the flowers, my mother's grave again. Give me my race and kindred. Please take me home again.
So sad, so sad.
Yes, and so beautiful how she remained connected to her own people all along. So this is, screen sharing has stopped. So this is a woman from the West. And her name is Onaweki Clinch. Did it come up? I can't, it's not showing me. So, yeah. Okay, good, yeah. This woman is named Onaweki Clinch, and she is from the Western band of the Cherokee, who of course originally were from here, but have now they've been divided into two camps, the Western band and the Eastern band. And the Eastern band is from our neck of the woods here in North Carolina. And I'm going to read one of my very favorite Native American writers, N. Scott Momaday, who is a Kiowa. The Kiowa were originally from the Great Plains. And N. Scott Momaday was awarded the Pulitzer Prize in 1969 for a beautiful book of prose that he wrote called The Housemaid of Dawn, which I read years ago and cannot recommend more highly. It is fabulous. And what I've noticed about Native American prose writers is the same thing I've noticed about writers from India. They tend to embed quite a bit of a poetic voice into their prose, which for me is just music for my ears. He went to Stanford University. He's still living today. He's quite elderly. I don't know if he's still writing. And so this one is called the gourd dancer, and it's written for a famous Kiowa person named Mama Date, who lived in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Another season centers on this place. Like memory, the blood congeals in it. Like memory, the sun recedes in time into the hazy southern distances. A vagrant heat hangs on the dark river and shadows turn like smoke. An owl ascends among the branches, clattering, remote within its motion, intricate with age. Mama Date saw to the building of his house. Just there by the arbor, he made a camp in the old way. And in the evening, when the hammers had fallen silent, and there were frogs and crickets in the black grass, and a low hectic wind upon the pale slanting plain of the moon's light, he settled deep down in his mind dream. That word is mind dream, in case I didn't say that very well. He dreamed of dreaming and of the summer breaking upon his spirit, as drums break upon the interval of the dance, and of the gleaming gourds. They would have used gourds as rattles in that ceremony he's talking about. Dancing, he dreams that he is dreaming. The long wind glances, moves forever as music to the mind. The gourds are flashes in the sun. He takes the inward mincing steps that conjure old processions and returns. Dancing, his moccasins, his sash and bandolier contain him in insignia. His fan is powerful, concise, according to his agile hand, and holds upon the deep ancestral air. Someone spoke his name, Mama Date, in which his essence was and is. It was a serious matter that his name should be spoken there in the circle among the many people, and he was thoughtful, full of wonder, and aware of himself and of his name. He walked slowly to the summons, looking into the eyes of the man who summoned him. For a moment, they held each other in close regard, and all about them there was excitement and suspense. Then a boy came suddenly into the circle, leading a black horse. The boy ran, and the horse after him. He brought the horse up short in front of Mama Date, and the horse wheeled and threw its head and cut its eyes in the wild way. It blew hard and quivered in its hide, so that the light ran rippling upon its shoulders and its flanks. And then it stood still and was calm. Its mane and tail were fixed in braids and feathers, and a bright red sheep's blanket was draped in a roll over its withers. The boy placed the reins in Mama Date's hands, and all of this was for Mama Date in his honor, as even now it is in the telling and will be, as long as there are those who imagine him in his name. So I guess you gathered that names are very important to Native people, and they would often wait for a few days till after the child was born to ask what its name would be, to let the name come. And most people in Cherokee, when I go to Cherokee, most people up there have nicknames, and they're names that really describe something that they've done that describes who they are. And it's very common in the Native tradition, I think really through all cultures, all tribes, that when someone has done something of value, there would be an honoring ceremony for that person. And I remember once I was at a powwow, and there was a young man there who I later got to know. He was dealing with alcoholism, and he was wearing eagle feathers. In the Native tradition, eagle feathers are so sacred, you don't touch them. If you don't put them in the same room with alcohol, you don't touch them if you've been drinking, and if you're an alcoholic, you're not allowed around them at all. And he was wearing an outfit with eagle feathers, and I knew he was trying to make a new start in his life, and that's why he was wearing that outfit. And an eagle feather fell from his regalia on the ground, and the entire powwow stopped, and they gifted the eagle feather to the most active member of the military who happened to be there, because they really honor warriors. And so there was a quapaw there, and they gave it to that quapaw man. And that young man who was wearing the regalia, which it takes years to put that regalia together, and several hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars, he took the regalia off and he gave it to the quapaw man to honor that he was not ready to be wearing these eagle feathers. It was a very touching experience to witness this, how honoring they were to the things that they were wearing, and they wanted to maintain that honor. It was incredible. This is another poem by Scott Momaday called A Prayer for Words. Here is the wind bending the reeds westward, the patchwork of morning on gray moraine. Had I words, I could tell of origin, of God's hands bloody with birth at first light, of my thin squeals in the heat of his breath, of the taste of being, the bitterness and sense of root and choke cherries. And God, if my mute heart expresses me, I am the rolling thunder and the bursts of torrents upon rock, the whispering of old leaves, the silence of deep canyons. I am the rattle of mortality. I could tell of the splintered sun. I could articulate the night sky, had I words. They're all so good, aren't they? I'm going to tell you what a joy it was to spend time with this poetry today. So since we're still at West, this is a Navajo writer. His name is Hirschman John. And he received his MFA from the Arizona State University, which is right close to the reservation, and teaches out in that area. And this is called A Strong Male Rain. The air dances with wet sand off golden dunes. The horse begins to get excited. From the whispers of rolling thunder in the distance, a tidal wave of dust swallows the sky. A heavy rainstorm is coming. Slowly, he crawls across the sky, angry. He's large and bumpy with thick, strapping gray muscles. This storm cloud is male. That's what Grandma says. When the clouds gather anger, they cry thunder and rain. This is male rain. The sudden wind kicks up sand into my eyes. I blink. In a drying puddle from yesterday's storm, I see Darcy's face. Darcy, a Jewish girl from Phoenix, a friend also afraid of the male rain. Her brother Ian brought on her fears. Grandma brought on mine. She told us kids to sit still and don't talk during a storm, or we'd get struck by lightning. When Darcy was young, she used to sit at the window and watch the lightning show during monsoon season. Ian walked to his sister by the window. He grinned his teenage teeth and said, "You know, if you stand too close to the window, a Kugelblitz will get you." "A Kugelblitz?" she questioned. "Yeah, a ball of lightning to chase you." She never watched the light show again. Instead, during stormy nights, she silently cried in bed. Little Jewish tears added to the monsoon's rain. She told me the story one rainy night. I told her about the male rain and what not to do during a storm. She told me about Ian and his tale of the Kugelblitz. I guess Jews and Navajos aren't all that different. We were both afraid of thunderstorms. We have other past storms we were afraid of too. She had the Holocaust. I had America. Lightning flashes, thunder follows.
Wow. Woo.
I know, right? So good.
Oh,
So
I
we're
used to just love thunderstorms out in Oklahoma.
I love thunderstorms too. I think
And-
they're so magical.
The weather before tornadoes, and tornadoes themselves are just, there's something magic about them.
There's some. Would anyone, was anyone else gonna read, or? are
Oh,
we
does someone have some Native American poetry to read?
Tons.
Oh, yeah, please, so go ahead.
I was just wondering, just for variety, so other people can feel.
Absolutely. I'm so sorry I didn't think to ask. I
That's
apologize.
okay. No,
Yeah.
I just wondered if other people had
What do you
little
have?
things in
Tracey?
mind. Sure. I mean, I have several, but it's hard to pick because they're all so good.
I know. I know. Agreed. Yeah.
This is the simple one. I liked my earlier one, really beautiful, but this is quick and beautiful. When we in these, this is by Winter Woman. When we Indians kill meat, we eat it all up. When we dig roots, we make little holes. When we build houses, we make little holes. When we burn grass for grasshoppers, we don't burn everything. We shake down acorns and pine nuts. We don't chop down the trees, we only use dead wood. But the white people plow up the ground, pull down the trees, kill everything. How can the spirit of the earth like the white man? Everywhere the white man has touched it, it is sore.
Mm.
Got that right.
So, anyone else?
Not be the only one, Fairstay. Would you like to read some more?
Yeah, I'll go back to that first one I liked by Ophelia Zepeda. It's called The Place Where Clouds Are Formed.
Mm.
Every day it is the same. He comes home, he tells her about it. And as he speaks, his breath condenses in front of his face. She goes about her business. Every now and then she looks over. She doesn't hear his voice. She sees the soft fog that continues to form a halo. She knows he's still talking about that place. He never tires of it like she does. Only on summer days when the air is hot and moisture is still a long time in coming, she asks him to tell her about that place. She sits facing him, waiting for the first vocalic non-stops, the push of air from his lips. He tells her of the place where clouds are formed. The cool dampness of his voice is rich. Even on a dry June day, her face beads with wetness as he talks directly to her. Each aspirated sound a gentle burst of coolness. Tell me again, she teases. If he knew she only wanted relief from the heat and not the story, he would stop talking. He begins. The first time I saw the place where clouds are formed was from the window of a train. Another time was in a mirage in the heat outside Tucson. Once he thought he saw it in the dry light of stars. The place he remembers best was when he saw it in the eyes of a woman he spoke to. When he first noticed it, she hid it by lowering her gaze. Soon she let him look freely. There were times when she opened her eyes wide, allowing an unobstructed view. Sometimes he saw her eyes smolder with dryness on a summer day. Other times she was rich with moisture. Clouds came in succession. The earth's shadow muted. You know the 40 days and 40 nights? I was there. I'll be there when it happens again, she said with a slight smile. Like a child, he rushed to look into her eyes at every opportunity. If he could, he would hang on her eye socket, peering inside, marveling at her displays.
Hmm.
This has part 2 and 3, but I kind of like to stop right there. The end.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Do you want to read one more, or should I continue?
Please continue.
Okay, yeah.
I like the images.
Thank you. Want to find my friend from the north.
Tracey, are these up online somewhere?
Yeah, this is my website. It's just my name, TraceySchmidt.com. And this is my museum exhibit. There are several samples of the museum exhibit and also several samples of the text panels that go with each one of the images. It's really a fine art and an educational exhibit.
How wonderful. I love that this lady, this wonderful woman in the white. I
Oh,
mean,
I
I
know.
can't
Oh,
believe
yeah.
that.
She's life size in my house, and it's really like having a person around. But every time I sell her, I have to go and have it reprinted immediately because I feel like someone just moved out.
You should just keep your original, you keep with the one you have and print it and send them the print
Yeah,
instead of taking it out of your house.
yeah,
I remember Baba once saying to Manu and her family, there was a photo of him at Bindra House, and somebody, I think it was Dr. Deshmukh, wanted to borrow it and said he wanted to copy it and bring it back soon. And well, he didn't bring it back, and he didn't bring it back. And so finally Baba sent her a telegram, the family a telegram. You know, he was in wherever he was, Mehrabad maybe, and they were in Pune, and he said, "Why have you thrown me out of your house?" And she didn't understand and got really upset. And then I think it was that Baba appeared at their house and she asked him, and he said, "My picture isn't there." So that's why I'm saying I think you should keep your photo and
okay,
another one.
yeah.
And also I wanted to say about M. Scott Mama Day, that the first poem you read, my God, the words he chooses sometimes, like vagrant breeze. And
Yeah.
I can't remember because there's been so much since then, but what tonight, but you know, some other word about something with their wind. I mean, I just thought, oh my God, those words they just jumped out at me.
Imagine reading a whole book of prose like that. That's how it is. Yeah, his book is called The Housemaid of Dawn, which it's like a very long poem. What?
Is it called Housemaid of Dawn?
Yes. Yeah.
Housemaid of Dawn.
Yeah. This is the photograph up? Can you see the photograph I have?
No, I don't, but I'm on my smartphone.
Can everybody else see it?
It's a photograph of a man.
Yeah, this is a Winnebago elder. So we're doing poems from the north. This is a Winnebago elder who's at a ceremonial site. There are 2 hearts carved into the ground with that equal arm cross inside the heart. And this is where they would erect their teepee and do peyote ceremony. A very lovely human being. He's still alive. His name is Warner Earth. So the poetry I'm going to read is by a rather well-known poet named Louise Erdrich, who's still alive. She's from the Anishinaabe, who originally were from Minnesota. And she lives in Minnesota now. She owns a bookstore there called Birch Bark Books. And she was a finalist for the Pulitzer, went to Dartmouth and Johns Hopkins, has written several volumes of poetry. And in prose and children's books, quite prolific writer. And this is a poem called Jacklight. We have come to the edge of the woods, out of brown grass where we slept, unseen, out of knotted twigs, out of leaves creaked shut, out of hiding. At first, the light wavered, glancing over us. Then it clenched to a fist of light that it pointed, searched out, and divided us. Each took the beams like direct blows, the heart answers. Each of us moved forward alone. We have come to the edge of the woods, drawn out of ourselves by this night sun, this battery of polarized acid that outshines the moon. We smell them behind it, but they are faceless and invisible. We smell the raw steel of their gun barrels, mink oil on leather, their tongues of sour barley. We smell their fathers with scoured knuckles, teeth cracked from hot marrow. We smell their sisters of crushed dogwood, bruised apples, of fractured cups and concussions, of burnt hooks. We smell their breath steaming lightly behind the jacklight. We smell the itch underneath the caked guts on their clothes. We smell their minds like silver hammers cocked back, held in readiness for the first of us to step into the open. We have come to the edge of the woods, out of brown grass where we slept unseen, out of leaves creaked shut out of hiding. We have come here too long. It is their turn now, their turn to follow us. Listen, they put down their equipment. It is useless in the tall brush, and now they take their first steps, not knowing how deep the woods are, and lightless. How deep the woods are. This is called Advice to Myself. Leave the dishes. Let the celery rot in the bottom drawer of the refrigerator and earthen scum harden on the kitchen floor. Leave the black crumbs in the bottom of the toaster. Throw the cracked bowl out and don't patch the cup. Don't patch anything. Don't mend, buy safety pins. Don't even sew on a button. Let the wind have its way, then the earth that invades as dust, and then the dead foaming up in gray rolls underneath the couch. Talk to them. Tell them they are welcome. Don't keep all the pieces of the puzzles or the doll's tiny shoes in pairs. Don't worry who uses whose toothbrush or if anything matches at all. Accept one word to another or a thought. Pursue the authentic. Decide first what is authentic, then go after it with your whole heart. Your heart, that place you don't even think of cleaning out. That closet stuffed with savage memories. Don't sort the paper clips from the screws from the saved baby teeth, or worry if we're all getting cereal for dinner again. Don't answer the phone ever, or weep over anything at all that breaks. Pink molds will grow within those sealed cartons in the refrigerator. Accept new forms of life and talk to the dead who drift in through the screen windows, who collect patiently on the top of food jars and books. Recycle the mail. Don't read it. Don't read anything except what destroys the insulation between yourself and your experience, or what pulls down, or what strikes at, or what shatters this rouse you call necessity. I love that poem so much. I just can't even say. Right? Yeah. How timely. I'm actually going to end it there. I think that's There's lots more poetry in this book. If you want to get a copy of it, I found it on Amazon. It was only, I think, $12.
Mm.
Mhm.
So in our neck of the woods here in near the coast of South Carolina, there were lots of tribes there, and there were Edisto and Catawba and Yamasee and Waccamaw. The Waccamaw still have a reservation close to the Baba Center. And it's a funny story about the Catawba people who were down in near where the center is. That is, I was staying with a friend, and I was living with her and her husband, and I lived in this beautiful guest room. And I was in college and I was stressed out. And I said to her, why is it that when I walk into this room, I literally cannot have a bad thought? I cannot be upset about anything. I can't even have a bad dream. And she said, oh, when we bought this house, it was in the center of Atlanta, this very poor part of Atlanta. She said, when we bought this house, the termites had eaten the foundation. So my husband had to dig out underneath the house and put in new foundations. And he found a ceremonial site. Well, I did not believe her. I just thought I thought the whole thing sounded very romantic and she was making it up. But I was having such a remarkably fabulous time in this room. I had to realize there was something going on. So I had and she said to me, it's old Lakota land that we're living on. I said, that's crazy. Lakotas didn't live in Georgia. So I had some Lakotas come to my house. And I told them the story, and they're like, oh yeah, no, Lakotas used to live in Georgia. They traveled all over. And it turned out that the largest burial mound here in North Carolina of traditional older Native people have Lakotas buried there with them. It's called Town Creek. It's not too far from Asheville. Mm-hmm. And the Catawbas, who lived right around where the center is now, speak a Lakota-based language, which is crazy, but there you go. It kind of reminds us that the tribes were actually much more connected than we earlier realized, and traveled and traded and intermingled with each other and intermarried. And so I just wanted to tell you that lovely story about where the center is, because there were lots of Native people there. And I have to believe that they're somehow, helping to watch over the center for us. It's such a special area. And as we know, Native people lived there on the center. We know that for a fact, that there were people there before us.
Have you ever asked about or actually, investigated that mound that you walked past on the way to Baba's?
I have, yeah.
And can you tell us about that?
Well, I talked to Jeff about it, and he basically said that he did not want people to know about it. So I really don't talk about it very often.
Oh, okay.
Because he doesn't want the curious and the uneducated going into those mounds and starting to dig around, because some crazy person's going to do that, right?
Yeah.
So there are mounds there, and they're on the way to Baba's house.
Yes.
And I can't help but feel like that's very significant that his house was near where those mounds are. Mm-hmm. To just be part of that honoring of Native people having been there, and them helping to protect the area and keep it safe. So that's what I know about it.
Okay.
We don't know what tribe it was. There's really no way of knowing exactly what tribe it was. But we do know this, that the tribes in Georgia, and I have to assume it's the same for South Carolina, but the tribes in Georgia, that were so many people, Native people who lived here in Georgia, mm-hmm. that there were like a lot more Native people who lived in Georgia than there are people living there today. That's how populated the South was of Native people before we rounded them up. And so though I'm pretty sure everyone knows the story about Baba, wanting to spill blood, feeling that he needed to spill blood in the United States. He basically followed the Trail of Tears, which that was started by Andrew Jackson, who had the Congress vote on the Trail of Tears, and they voted no. But Andrew Jackson decided that he was going to command the army, which he did, and he went against the will and the vote of the Congress, and he enacted it himself anyway. And so he had the military round up the southeastern tribal people by gunpoint, and they all met around Tennessee. It's a little area there in Tennessee where they all gathered them and walked them in the middle of winter to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Which is the path that Baba took.
Yes.
So it's so beautiful that he wanted to somehow help us cleanse that karma of the United States, which, as we know, is now a karma for us.
Right.
Because we did not treat our indigenous people well, and we still do not treat them well. I can tell you for a fact, we still do not treat them well.
I know.
We think they're being treated well because we let people have casinos, but I can tell you from being on reservations that it's not a pretty place to go. It's not a good place to go.
I just wanted to say it's not a refuting of anything that you said, but in Oklahoma, I used to attend powwows, and there were some tribes that were not friendly, were not open to us white kids hanging around. You know, some of them would invite us in to the stomp dance, the circle dance, and that was such a treat. Oh, was that wonderful. And there were some tribes that they didn't run us off, but they would make us stand aside. They would not let us join in their stomp dance.
Yeah.
The Sac and Fox, which are two tribes that joined, and they were kind of militant. So it's that feeling is still with them.
Yeah, definitely.
Of course it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. No, it definitely is. Yeah.
But some of them have a more spiritual approach.
Right. And as you all know, we had a Ute elder who was a Bible lover until he passed. Eddie Box.
Oh, yes. I
Colorado.
have a great picture of Eddie and Diane and myself. We were on the center one time when they were there, and that open space in the parking in front of the women's cabin, which is where I was staying at that time. And I don't know if Jeff was there, but Eddie and Diane and myself and I see his face and I can't remember his name. We're standing there in that open area where you can look right up at the sky and just talking. I forget what we were talking about, because Eddie looks up and he points and he says, eagle. And there was a bald eagle circling us way up in the sky, but he was circling the clearing as if he were listening to our conversation. He was way up there, and it was such a beautiful experience because it's such an extraordinary animal to begin with. I mean, when you see them, you understand, why they're our national bird. There's nothing else like it.
Right.
And just that wingspan never flapped, just circled.
Yeah.
Just sailing on the air. And I had the feeling that he was I wouldn't say talking to, but he was, shall we say, in my impression, and it just popped into my head that he was, for whatever reason, whatever he was doing, or he was circling Eddie and not conversing or anything like that, but maybe he was in eagle speak or whatever. But he was circling Eddie.
Do you know the very first time I ever went to the center, Danny was there. I forget his last name. He used to help Jeff and Annie. He now lives in Washington. Anyway,
Danny Moore.
Danny Moore.
Danny Moore. He was the
Danny
other
Moore.
person. He was the person whose name I couldn't remember. He was standing with us when that
Danny
happened.
Moore wanted to introduce me to the center. So he took me out and we walked for several miles, and he was teaching me how to stalk, because he and I both had this Native American, we were having a conversation about Native people, and he was teaching me how to stalk walk. So we were stalking the deer,
Mhm.
and we're standing there, and there's a peregrine falcon in the tree above us, and we're looking at it through the lens of my camera. I had a really long lens, and all of a sudden this bird comes and knocks the peregrine falcon off, and it was this huge bird, and I thought, like, what's bigger than a peregrine falcon? I just was so confused, and I looked at Danny and I said, what's bigger than a peregrine falcon? He goes, it's a bald eagle. I said, there's no bald eagles around here.
Oh, yes.
I put my camera on it was bald eagle.
Yeah.
Very first time I ever went to the center.
It's so exciting to see one. It really is.
Very, very special. And I knew it was a sign. Like, I just, like, I'm all about stuff like that. And because I hang out with Native people, right? And so I was like, oh, pay attention. You're someplace very special,
Yeah, you must miss Diane.
Diane? Oh, she kind of went back to her Christian roots.
No, she was living here, and she did kind of,
Yeah.
but she was living here and just moved back to Denver.
Yeah.
So
I never really connected to her the way I connected to Eddie Box. Did I ever tell y'all that story about Baba asking me to interview Eddie Box?
no.
Well, Baba asked me to interview Eddie Box, and I said, Baba, I really don't want to do it because I interviewed a Ute elder before and it didn't go well, and I just really don't want to. I just don't want to mess with the Utes. Like, they're just a little too much for me. And so, when Baba asks you to do something, you do it. So I go to the center, and there's Eddie Box, and I keep saying to myself, Tracey, do not talk to Eddie Box about that bad experience you had with that Ute elder, because you might offend him. So just don't bring it up. But it was it was the only bad experience I've ever had with an elder in my entire history of interviewing elders. And it was terrible. It was terrible. And the woman actually tried to embezzle money from me. That's how bad it was. Threatened my life, would not let me out of her house, trapped me in her house for 2 hours. It was absolutely, it was
Oh my
terrible.
God.
It was terrible. So I meet Eddie Box, and out of my mouth, 5 minutes after meeting him, I'm telling him the story about this Ute elder, like, and how upset I was. And he starts laughing. And I said, why are you laughing? I said, this was traumatizing to me. And he goes, I'm laughing because that woman you're telling me the story about is my ex-sister-in-law. And that thing that she did to you, she's done to more people than you can possibly imagine. That's like what she did to everybody. Because of course I took it very personally and just did, was very confused. I was so grateful for Baba asking me to interview him.
Yeah, isn't it? So you made this wonderful connection with Eddie.
Yes, and it really healed that very traumatic experience I had with that woman, because.
Oh, good. Glad to hear it.
Yeah.
The first time I ever met Eddie was at the Samadhi, and it was after the morning arti when people sing. And I didn't know that they were even there because I was very close to the door with my back turned to the people. And I'm just standing there, and I hear this flute starts playing. And it's Eddie playing one of his beautiful flutes. I nearly fell down. I kind of had to fall back and sit on one of the benches. It was so beautiful. And all the people who were local Indians from India they were all looking around like, what is that he's doing? And they didn't get it. And tears were, I was trying to keep from, weeping, and just the beauty of it. And I turned around, and this is the first time I ever saw Eddie. They had come in after me, and there they were, Eddie and Diane. Eddie with his braids and playing one of those flutes. Oh my God, at the Samadhi. It was just so extraordinary.
Wow.
That was the first time I ever saw him.
Wow.
Yeah.
So special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a gift.
Yeah.
What a sweet man.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask, of those poems that you read tonight, were they all from the book that you just
Yes. They were all from this book. Yeah. And as you can see, the book is very thick. So there's a lot more.
What
to
a
be read.
treasure.
What a treasure. I know. It just came out.
When the light of the world was subdued, our songs. Okay.
Yeah. Edited by Joy Harjo. I think you would love it, Diane. And I can't wait to spend more time with it. Today was I just ordered it last week or 2 weeks ago. You know, Joseph Campbell said that the people who are indigenous to a land, whatever land that is, and whatever the indigenous people happen to be, really hold a special link to that land. Like they are the liaison to that land. And so I feel that's really true. And so I guess it's one of the reasons why I feel like we, you know, who live here in America, energetically, it's very helpful to really spend some time with Native culture and learn about it and see if you can find some ways to let it in to, you know, assist you in having a deeper connection to the environment around you. I think it can be very transformative.
It certainly has been for me.
Yeah, it certainly has been for me. Completely transformative. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I the first time I was ever in a ceremony, I got to see a Native American coming into I was at a Sundance, and the medicine man had an attack of thrombosis. There was a controversy in the community that he was really in the center of. And the man who invited me to that Sundance out in South Dakota turned to me and he said, "I'm going to go and pierce my body for the medicine man." And he was a Hayoka, which means Hayokas do everything backwards. They're kind of like the clowns. And so if they would be in the ceremony with you, they would say, "I pray that your health is terrible and that your ancestors are not doing well." It's just their way of, they do everything backwards. And of course he means really, he hopes your health as well. And so all the people are fasting while they're in the Sundance, which is a very old ceremony of the Plains people that was brought to them by the White Buffalo Cattlemen. It's one of their 7 sacred ceremonies, and they actually pierce their breast with an eagle bone. And they tie themselves to a tree and they dance until their skin breaks. And it's really their way of sacrificing their body for the health.
That was in a film. Did you ever see that film?
Yes, Little Big Man.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
No, it wasn't Little Big Man. It was, it had the star was that British actor. Oh God, what was the title of that
Oh, I
movie?
didn't see that.
Oh God.
You'll think of it in a minute.
Dancing with Wolves.
No, this is before that.
Oh,
Before Dances with Wolves.
You'll think of it in a minute. So, so Leary, who's a Hayoka, says to me, when the Hayoka pierces, the thunder beings come. Well, we were in big sky country. You could literally see for 25 or 30 miles where we were on top of a hill in South Dakota.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, yeah, there's no clouds in the sky anywhere. You know, I'm just sitting there like, okay, you know, I'm not sure I believe him, but I don't disbelieve him, but I don't believe him, you know. When the Hayoka pierces, the thunder beings come. So he pierces his skin in the ceremony for the Hayoka, for the medicine man. It takes 45 minutes. And while I'm sitting there watching, it's a huge circle of people. There's probably 200 people dancing inside the circle. All of a sudden, out of the blue, just on cue, clouds come in like crazy. And they just start raining and thundering in that circle. And I said, oh my gosh, Native people still know how to talk to the thunder beings. I'm in. I'm so in on this.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was really very important for me to understand that Native people still know how to speak to animals and insects and their bodies and the nature beings around them. It was very important for me to understand that people still know how to do that.
Yeah.
They often revere the natural world.
Yes, they definitely revere the natural world. Absolutely.
Well, they're part of it. They don't see themselves as separate.
Absolutely. That's exactly right. They don't. That's why they would offer their bodies in a ceremony. They feel that it's the one thing they have to give
Mhm.
is their body. And so that is exactly why they pierce in a Sundance, because I feel it's the most sacred thing they can offer. Like it's the true commitment of offering something, you know, to put their body on the line like that. Yeah.
I wish we knew more about that Indian that Baba contacted, you know, made contact with in Arizona. Where was that?
I don't think I knew that story.
Oh, yeah. He was with,
One of his agents, I think it might have been New Mexico, is on his first
it might
train
have
ride
been New
across the United
Mexico.
States.
Yeah. What town
Mexico.
were they in?
I don't remember that, but it was on Baba's first train ride, which was in the 30s.
I was going to
across
say
the
they got
United States.
off a train, and there was a certain amount of time that they had before the train left again. And Baba walked a few blocks and he looked down an alley and there was an Indian man there standing. And I don't know, what's the story? Maybe you know better. I forget whether they just exchanged glances or they didn't. But anyway, Baba
No, I
made,
think they just exchanged glances and they weren't
Yeah.
even very near each other.
Yeah,
And
they
there
didn't-
were no words spoken from
And they didn't
whichever
really-
Manjali was with him.
yeah, they didn't really meet. He just looked down
No.
the alley at this man and they made contact and that was it. Baba turned and walked away and got back on the train. And I believe Erich was with him.
Wow.
Maybe not, because it might have been before Erich, but whoever was with him said, Baba, who was that? And he said, oh, that's my agent.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that story. I think I have heard that story before now. I've forgotten about that story. Yeah. No, I totally believe that.
You could
I
probably
wonder-
read it in Trail of Tears, you know, Anne Ross's book, but I'm not sure whether it's in that book or not because the Trail of Tears happened in 52 and this was in the 30s. You know
Right.
where you could find it would be Tony Zois's website,
Oh,
Meher
yeah.
Baba Travels.
Yeah, he does an amazing job, that
Meher
Tony.
Baba Travels. Do you know of that, Tracy? That website, it's incredible.
No.
Also in Lord Meher, I believe.
It's online. Well, it would be, but it would be easier to find it on Meher Baba Travels.
Mirabella Travels.
Yeah. Tony
Yeah.
Zois is a real character. He's an Australian. He's an Aussie. And he's such a barrel of laughs. He's so much fun. And that's what he does. He does a wonderful job of kind of like gathering up reports. And
Oh.
yeah, he has his own website. And he does a great
Oh, yeah. Love to hear that. Thank you for telling me about it. I met the lady who wrote that book. She came through Asheville about, 10 or 12 years ago, and I met with her and
Which book?
Trail of
The
Tears.
Trail of
Oh,
Tears, the one
yeah.
that she wrote. Oh my God, that she
And
pulled together the information. It was
Yeah.
incredible.
I spent a full day with her and the woman she was traveling with, telling them all about what I knew about Native people in this area.